Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Kennedy Center. This is the Millennium Stage. It's our daily free performance series. It's brought to you each and every single evening of the week by our very good friends at Target. You can find us here at 6 p.m. 365 evenings a year to present the best in music, dance, theater, and more. And if you're ever unable to join us in person, we invite you to visit us online at www.kennedy-center.org. You can log on there and watch a streaming live webcast of each night's performance at 6 o'clock, and also choose from thousands of past performances in our internet broadcast archive. All right, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, won't you please join me in welcoming to the stage members of the United States Navy Band.
Good evening. Much of the power of our freedom movement in the United States has come from music. It has strengthened us with its sweet rhythms when courage began to fail. It has calmed us with its rich harmonies when spirits were down. These are strong words spoken by a pillar of American history. Dr. King's words provide the sense of power that music has to open hearts and minds. As military musicians, we see firsthand the power of these words. A 2005 State Department study suggested that the power of music in extending our culture abroad is equal to or greater than the guns of a field in winning the hearts and minds of a people. My name is Senior Chief Musician Mike Bays. Together with Chief Musicians Yolanda Pelzer and Daryl Duff and members of the United States Navy Band's contemporary music ensemble, the Cruisers, we highlight our Navy music pioneers. Men and women who have served the United States Navy since its inception and have seen firsthand the power that music brings to a nation. However, due to the racial and social pressures that have plagued our country's history, these Navy sailors and their proud service record have been lost to the decades until now.
America, America, God shed His grace. He shed His grace on thee, and then He crowned thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains in all its majesties, above the fruited plain, America, America, God shed His grace. He shed His grace on thee, and then He crowned thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
Naval historian Dennis Nelson once noted, "It is a remarkable fact that African Americans were carried upon the rolls and records of the early American Navy without reference to racial identity. In the Navy, the need for able-bodied seamen has almost always superseded any racial boundaries. Many of the early colonial state constitutions offered freedom to slaves if they fought for their new Navy. It is known that 1,500 African Americans served the Navy in our fight for liberty during the American Revolution. When asked about the quality of sailor that was being sent to the Battle of Lake Erie during the War of 1812, Commodore Isaac Chauncey echoed the sentiment of the Navy towards all when he said, "I have yet to learn that the color of skin or the cut and trimmings of the coat can affect a man's qualifications." At that time, African American sailors comprised 10 to 20% of the total force in the Navy. These brave men stood toe-to-toe with their fellow sailors in defense of our new independence. As the nation was drawn into a civil war, African Americans continued to serve and fight for their country. In his paper entitled "Black Men in Navy Blue During the Civil War," Joseph Reedy concluded that at the height of the war, some 23% of the United States Navy consisted of African American sailors. As the war progressed, personnel numbers were drastically low. To change course and increase enlistments, Secretary of the Navy Gideon Welles allowed former and runaway slaves, also called contraband, to enter naval service. With the arrival of these new recruits, segregation began to creep more intensely into shipboard life. We honor the Navy service of these former slaves with this next piece. "Wade in the Water" is an old spiritual that is said to have been sung by Harriet Tubman to escaping slaves along the Underground Railroad. It is said she used this song to remind them to abandon the well-traveled road and move to the water in order to hide their scent from the chasing dogs.
Wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God gon' trouble the water. Well, who is that yonder, all dressed in red? God gon' trouble the water. It must be those children that Moses led. God gon' trouble the water. Oh, wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God gon' trouble the water. Well, who is that young girl all dressed in white? God gon' trouble the water. It must be the children of Israelite. God gon' trouble the water. Jordan's water is chilly and cold. God, you're gonna trouble the water. It chills the body, but not the soul. God, gonna trouble the water. Ooh, wade, wade in the water. Wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God gon' trouble the water. If you get there before I do, God gonna trouble the water. Won't you tell my friends I'm coming? Tell God gon' trouble the water. Oh, wade in the water. Oh, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God
way racial tensions manifested themselves on board ships during the Civil War was through the introduction of minstrels. While the purpose of these shows was to delineate the racial divide through bigotry and hatred, these shows provide a snapshot of what Joseph Reedy suggested when he stated this: "To the extent that the telling of history succeeds, it may just come close to capturing the messy lives that people actually live, rather than the neat ones that historians are inclined to construct. The history of minstrelsy in America is clouded with all the emotions that encapsulate the race issues of the late 19th and early 20th centuries. One truth is, minstrel shows were the first form of musical theater that was 100% American-born. Through their work entitled A History of African American Theater, Errol Hill and James Hatch state, quote, "Early minstrelsy was not only about race, but also class and region," end quote. They argue that black minstrelsy provided the first large-scale opportunity for African Americans to enter American show business. This was the case on board ships, where minstrel music served not only to divide the races, but was also used as entertainment, provided a morale boost for sailors, and was used as an early form of cultural diplomacy. Joseph Reedy's work on the Civil War provides examples of pioneer musicians like Charles Fisher, who were known for their excellence in this style of music. In this next authentic performance, we pay homage to our Civil War Navy music pioneers.
The candidate's a Dodger, yes, a well-known Dodger, yes. The candidate's a Dodger, yes, and I'm a Dodger too. He'll meet you and treat you and ask you for your vote. But look out, boys, he's a dodging for a note. Yes, we're all dodging, a dodging, dodging, dodging. Yes, we're all dodging now, away through the world. Yes, the preacher, he's a Dodger, yes, a well-known Dodger, yes. The preacher, he's a Dodger, yes, and I'm a Dodger too. He'll preach you the gospel and tell you of your crimes. But look out, boys, he's a dodging for your dimes. Yes, we're all dodging, a dodging, dodging, dodging. Yes, we're all dodging now, away through the world. Yes, the lover, he's a Dodger, yes, a well-known Dodger, yes. The lover, he's a Dodger, yes, and I'm a Dodger too. He'll hug you and kiss you and call you his bride. But look out, girls, he's a-telling you a lie. Yes, we're all dodging, a dodging, dodging, dodging. Yes, we're all dodging now, away through the world.
As the country began to move towards Reconstruction, the Navy, as a reflection of social tensions, became more divided. Jim Crow laws began to take hold nationally, white supremacy groups began to spring up, and without an opposing civil rights voice, African Americans became socially marginalized. In 1913, Woodrow Wilson signed the National Government Act, which segregated all government offices. While racial segregation began to grip the Navy, music remained a unifying voice. There were several African American sailors who found music provided an escape from the pressure of the racial divide. One example of this was the great American composer and World War I veteran, William Grant Still. In his words, "There was a navigating officer there who loved to dance, loved music and everything. When he found out that I played the fiddle, all I had to do was play in the middle of the day and play a little for dinner. Nothing else to do but sit around, never swabbed any decks." Next on the program is a piece composed by William Grant Still entitled Grief. The lyrics are from a poem by Leroy Brandt. It has been said that Brandt was accompanying Theodore Simmons, a music student, to a local cemetery where he saw a commonly seen statue of an angel with his head down, enclosed in his arms, weeping.
Weeping angel on pinions trailing, with head bowed low in your hands. Mourning angel with heartstrings wailing for one who in death's hall stands. Mourning angel, silence your wailing and raise your head from your hands. Weeping angel on your pinions trailing, the white dove promise stands. Weeping angel with pinions trailing and head bowed low in your hand. Mourning angel with heartstrings wailing for one who in death's hall stands. Mourning angel, silence your wailing and raise your head from your hands. Weeping angel on your pinions trailing, the white dove promise stands.
At a time of such racial segregation nationwide, one Navy music ambassador stood tall, a musician who believed that education was the path to equality and that music was its voice to effect social change. This musician was Alton Augustus Adams, a Virgin Island musician, composer, and educator. It was in 1917 that Mr. Adams' naval career began. On the brink of entering World War I, the United States purchased the Virgin Islands from Denmark. At the time, Mr. Adams was bandmaster of a local community band and had already established an international name for himself through articles he wrote, like Jacob's Band Monthly. These articles solidified his stature as one of the pioneers of the American band movement. As the new naval administration took control of the Virgin Islands, it became clear that there was a need to bridge the social gap between the Navy and the local population. To do this, the Navy turned to the music of Mr. Adams and his juvenile band. On June 2nd, 1917, this local community band was renamed the United States Navy Band of the Virgin Islands, and these musicians became the first African-American rated musicians of the modern Navy. For his efforts, Mr. Adams became the first African-American to receive the rank of bandmaster.
But a tiny spot, to many yet unknown, to me dear am coming back to you. Land where soft breezes blow, where all is summer and no snow, fair isle of love and light and charm, land of sunsets and of palms, isle of freedom from all harm. No matter where I may have been, I've always dreamt of you. No matter what I may have seen, my love for you is true. Dear Isle of the Caribbean seas, the new-found home of liberty, I am coming back to you. And where soft breezes blow, where all is summer and no snow, fair isle of love and light and charm, land of sunsets and of calm, isle of freedom from all harm.
With Bandmaster Adams' entrance into the Navy, a new professionalism towards Navy music began. He felt that the time had come for the military band to be treated with respect by composers, and that bands should be elevated to a status equal to that of the top orchestras of the day. This sentiment would later become the impetus to the famed American Bandmasters Association. To accomplish this, Bandmaster Adams personally trained his musicians. Upholding a high standard of leadership, Mr. Adams created one of the top performing music ensembles of the day. While aware of the social injustices that plague the United States, Bandmaster Adams believed that change could come through the arts. To support his belief, Adams embarked upon a Navy-sponsored tour of the East Coast of the United States in 1924. This tour became one of his greatest naval achievements. In the words of Adams himself, above all, the tour had a profound and lasting impact upon the minds and attitudes of African Americans, who saw our accomplishments not only as a vindication of the race, but also an opportunity for better treatment and greater equality. Known to some of us as the Sousa of the Navy, Bandmaster Adams had a long and successful naval career. He will forever serve as a pillar of Navy music and was one of its greatest ambassadors. We now honor Bandmaster Adams with this special performance. The trio to this next piece is known to many as the Virgin Islands National Anthem. Here is the Virgin Islands March, written by Alton Adams. In the early 1900s, civil rights groups like the NAACP and the National Urban League began to form, strengthen, and fight for equality. By 1932, this voice became so strong that the Navy reopened its doors to African Americans. However, service was restricted to the messmen and cook ratings. The civil rights voice that grew so large through the 1920s and 30s is heard in this next song made famous by Billie Holiday. It was one of the first of a long list of protest songs that inspired a national social change. It is a song that speaks to the pain and emotion of a people demanding social liberty.
Southern trees bear strange fruit, blood on the leaves and blood at the root, black bodies swinging in the southern breeze. Strange fruit hanging from the poplar trees. Pastoral scenes of the gallant South, them bulging eyes and the twisted mouth, scent of magnolias, sweet and fresh. Then the sudden smell of burning flesh. Fruit for the crows to pluck, for the rain to gather, for the wind to suck, for the sun to rot, for the trees to dry. Here is a strange and bitter cry.
During World War II, groups continued to lobby the Secretary of the Navy to open all ratings to African Americans. In a response to the Chief Attorney to the NAACP, Thurgood Marshall, Secretary Knox stated, "The policy of not enlisting men of the colored race for any branch of the Navy except the messmen branch was adopted to meet the best interests of generalship efficiency. He was adamant that it would be very destructive to attempt to integrate the Navy during a time when the nation was in the midst of a world war." This next piece was written by Josh White, who in 1941 became the first African-American artist to give a command White House performance. Moved by his performance, FDR called Mr. White to his private residence to talk. "You know, Josh, when I first heard your song Uncle Sam Says, I thought you were referring to me as Uncle Sam. Am I right?" "Well, yes, Mr. President," said Mr. White. "I wrote that song to you after seeing how my brother was treated in the segregated section of Fort Dix Army Camp."
Well, airplanes flying across the land and sea. Everybody's flying, but a Negro like me, Uncle Sam says. Your place is on the ground. When I fly my aeroplanes, don't want no Negro round. Same thing for the Navy. Ships goes to sea. Only thing they have is a mess boy's job for me. Uncle Sam says, keep on your apron, son. You know I ain't gonna let you shoot my big old Navy gun. Got my long government letter, time for me to go. When I went to the army, found the same old Jim Crow. Uncle Sam says, 2 camps for black and white. Oh, when that old trouble comes, we'll be in the same big fight. Take it away, Chief. If you ask me, I'd say democracy was fine. I mean democracy without that color line. Uncle Sam says we ought to live the American way. I say let's get together and kill old Jim Crow today.
The catalyst for a social change in the Navy came when a messman named Dory Miller distinguished himself in December of 1941. A citation for his valor reads, "For distinguished devotion to duty, extraordinary courage and disregard for his own personal safety during the attack on the fleet in Pearl Harbor, territory of Hawaii, by Japanese forces on December 7, 1941. While at the side of his captain on the bridge, Miller, despite enemy strafing and bombing and in the face of a serious fire, assisted in moving his captain, who had been mortally wounded, to a place of greater safety, and later manned and operated a machine gun directed at enemy Japanese attacking aircraft until ordered to leave the bridge. For his valor, Miller was initially awarded a letter of commendation, a pat on the back, a recognition far below what was deserved. It was the media, notably the Pittsburgh Courier with their Double V campaign, who heard of Miller's story. Incensed, they pressured the president and other government officials to give Miller proper recognition for his service. Further, they used the opportunity to make a stronger appeal for the Navy to integrate the ratings. Months after the event, the president ordered Secretary Knox to award Dory Miller the Navy Cross, one of the highest honors bestowed upon a sailor. By 1942, the social pressures against FDR and Secretary Knox became too great. On March 31st, 1942, FDR ordered Knox to open all ratings to African Americans. However, the president would limit those ratings to shore billets, and the Navy would remain segregated. The words to this next piece were taken from the Langston Hughes poem by the same name. The poem, dedicated to W.E.B. Du Bois, speaks to the majestic journey of the African American experience.
I've known a rivers. I've known rivers, ancient as the world and older than the flow of a human blood in the human veins. I've known rivers. I've known rivers, ancient as the world and older than the flow of human blood in the human veins, and older than the flow of a human blood in a human veins. My soul has grown deep like the rivers. I bathed in the Euphrates when dawns were young. I built my hut near the Congo, and it lulled me to sleep. I looked upon the Nile and raised the pyramids above it. I heard the singing of the Mississippi when Abe Lincoln went down to New Orleans, went down to New Orleans. And I've seen its muddy bosom turn all golden in the sunset. I've known rivers, ancient dusky rivers. My soul has grown deep like the
The new Navy policy of integration offered a great opportunity for African American musicians who were looking for a way to serve their country during World War II. A golden age of Navy music began as these talented musicians entered naval service. The first band to come through the Navy doors was the B-1 Band from North Carolina. Stationed at Chapel Hill Pre-Flight School, this band was made up of the best and brightest of North Carolina. In order for this band to succeed, these musicians had to be the best. Because all eyes would be on them, a strict discipline policy and very high music standards were upheld. The musicians chosen for this 44-piece band were mostly college-educated men, with 33 of the band's musicians coming from North Carolina A&T. James Parsons was chosen as the band's leader. A high school band director at the time of his appointment, Parsons epitomized the caliber of musicians the band attracted. He went on to become the first African American to be appointed as a federal judge with a lifetime appointment in 1961 by President John Kennedy. The B-1 Band was sworn in on May 27, 1942, and reported to basic training in Norfolk. They paraded into Chapel Hill shortly after boot camp and were met with prejudice. These men fought through the racial tensions and soon found support from the entire community. In addition to their naval responsibilities, these musicians supported the local community by giving private lessons to locals, serving as big brothers to children whose fathers were fighting overseas, and holding regular open houses where they showed movies and held jam sessions. In May of 1944, the band was transferred to Manana, Hawaii. Although they entered Chapel Hill to racial slurs and rock slinging, they left to tears of sadness and a large crowd bidding them a fond farewell. What you hear now is what you would have heard during the B-1 Band's numerous World War II radio broadcasts in Manana, Hawaii. By July of 1942, the Navy established an official training center for its musicians. This school of music was located at Great Lakes Naval Station. Over 5,000 musicians were trained at the lakes from 1942 to 1945. These very talented and well-trained musicians were called upon with great demand. As musicians and bands were sent to Navy bases across America, they were required to perform several functions, including graduation ceremonies, morning colors, award ceremonies, radio programs, bond drives, etc. Many well-known musicians such as Clark Terry, Vaughn Freeman, and Gerald Wilson came through the doors of Great Lakes. These musicians represented the best that America's cities could produce. The impact of these bands on society was best expressed by Clark Terry. He stated, and I quote, 25-piece bands were dispatched to bases from Chapel Hill to Corpus Christi. By performing free concerts in these cities, the bands introduced large segments of white population to musical culture they otherwise might not have encountered. In some ways, these musicians were fighting not just a world war, but were also on the front lines of a social change. Real social change occurred in the Navy with the appointment of Secretary of the Navy James Forrestal in 1941. To forestall, separate was not equal. He pushed Truman to sign Executive Order 9981 on July 26, 1948. The policy effectively fully integrated the naval service. Another major milestone came in 1972 when Admiral Zumwalt signed Directive Z-116, which opened all Navy ratings to women. In that same year, the Navy music program welcomed its first rated female musician. Her name was Evangeline Bailey. In 1972, Miss Bailey was stationed at Bethesda Naval Hospital as a hospital corpsman. That year, a member of the Navy band, Washington, D.C., paid her a visit to request that she audition for the band. She did, and a few short months later, she made her debut on a European tour with the Navy band's premier rock band, the Port Authority. We honor Evangeline Bailey, an all-female musician, with Chief Musician Yolanda Pelzer's rendition of Girl from Ipanema.
Tall and tan and young and handsome, the boy from Ipanema goes walking, and when he passes each girl he passes goes. When he walks he's like a summer that sways, so cool and swings so gentle that when he passes each girl he passes goes. Oh, how I watch him so sadly. How can I tell him I love him? Yes, I would give my heart gladly. But each day when he walks to the sea, he looks straight ahead, not at me. Tall and tan and young and handsome, the boy from Ipanema goes walking, and when he passes I smile, but he doesn't see. So sadly, how can I tell him I love him? Yes, I would give my heart gladly, but each day when he walks to the sea, he looks straight ahead, not at me. Tall, tan, young, boy from Ipanema goes walking, and when he passes I smile, but he doesn't see. He don't see me. He doesn't see, but he doesn't see.
As we've seen today, African American musicians have stood by their fellow sailors in the cause of freedom and liberty around the world. These sailors have not just served a nation, but have also fought for social justice. The story of our Navy pioneers is a rich narrative of the spirit of our nation's complex history. These pioneers stand as beacons for our future. In the words of World War II musician and Great Lakes Experience member Huel Perkins, any race needs its heroes, it needs its legends, it needs its fairy tales. I think we inspire young people. Many of them don't know us. Other people in years to come will read about us and take pride in what we've done. We stand today and take great pride in the work our Navy pioneers have accomplished through the history of the Navy. We honor our Navy music pioneers by concluding today's program with a special rendition of the Black National Anthem. Please welcome to the stage one last time the members of the United States Navy Band with Lift Every Voice and Sing.
Lift every voice and sing. till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty.
Let our rejoicings rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. They sing the rising sun of our new day. Let us march on till victory is won.
God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who has brought us thus far on the way,
thou who hast by thy might led us into the light. Keep us forever in the path we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee. Lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand true to our